without even saying anything. Hi everybody, welcome. Thanks for coming. Good to see everybody. Today we're going to be speaking about fear. It's a big issue that I think is one of the most universal things, right? Kind of a lot of philosophers will break the world down to fear and love or some kind of combination of the two. So when we look at any of these occult ideas, we're going to get a good amount of information about either fear or love, depending on what source you guys look at, right? And since last year we spent time dissecting all the conspiracy theories, this is important, what we're going to talk about today, because it's kind of what underlies an awful lot of them, right? So it's kind of a root factor in helping us to discern, and it's what's ruling the country right now, right? Like with a lot of the terrorism stuff, it's causing us to make decisions. So the federal government is enacting rules and regulations as a result of terror, right? You guys know this, right? This is true. It's happening. So it's good and important for us to at least know and understand what is terror, right? And even if you do believe any conspiracy theory ever, all you would need to know is what? How to combat the terror, right? Seems pretty simple. If you have terrorists and they're trying to fill you full of fear, what's the antidote to that? You get rid of fear, right? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. I don't know. Because if there's no fear, then there's no power over you, right? So it's important to look at this so that we don't get caught up in big to-do-dies. It happens consistently. I keep noticing, right? Like, I'm working on it too, you guys. I'll be like thinking I'm in a good direction and saying the truth, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not true at all. Darn it, like caught again, you know? Where you think a belief, you'll kind of aggregate towards some belief system because it sounds true, everything's good, it's checking out, and then something arises and you're like, uh-oh, problem with the truth, right? How many of you guys have had that happen? It happens, right? Periodically, systematically. So, how are we going to react to this? How are we going to deal with fear? How are we going to heal fear? And how are we going to have it not be an issue or a problem, right? It's better. So, I'm going to address fear today in two ways, appropriately enough, because there's duality, right? So we're going to look at it from 2 points of view. One is going to be paradox. So fear is like a paradox. And then the other way we're going to view it is as deception. Because as you guys know, I, of course, have to word nerd on everything we're going to be getting into. So the first thing that I did is you look up the word fear. Do you guys know what is fear? What does that mean? What is being afraid? What is that talking about? Well, what do you guys feel when you're afraid? Is it kind of like, oh, or like, who are you? What's that? It's the, right? And what is that? What is that? It's a question. What's going on? Who are you? What's happening? That's why we have that reaction, right? If you're cool, if you're sitting there and you know what's happening, are you going to have a, no, because you know what's going on, right? So really, fear is a reaction that comes from not knowing something. Basically, right? You don't know, so you go, what the heck, right? And then usually when you figure out what the heck is going on, the fear will subside, right? You get less scared if you understand something, right? So fear has an element of reaction, right? But if we look up the word fear, you guys know what they say, the word that it comes from, what it means? I could trace it to two words. Those two words, are you guys ready? The first one is danger, and the second one is deception. Now, those are two very different things. Deception means there is no danger, and danger means there's danger. Right? So you got to know the difference between those two things. This isn't a little thing, okay, right? Danger means, get out, right? Do something something. You gotta react. If there's danger, you don't just sit there, right? It's like if you see the bus heading towards you, right? Is that danger or is that deception? Well, that's a danger because the bus is real, right? So that's a problem. But then, if fear can go either one of those two ways, what does that tell you guys? Sometimes fear is real and sometimes fear is not real. But then the main problem that we're going to run into over and over again is how do you determine what's real? Is this fear legit or are you tripping? This is what we kind of got to do as we maneuver our way through life. Figure out, am I cool or am I not cool in my fear, right? A lot of fears you guys can tell if they're real, right? Because it'll be a natural reaction, like with the bus, okay? You guys don't need to sit there for like days and days or go ask a friend, like, that bus looks dangerous. Is it dangerous to stand in front of that bus? You guys don't have to do that, right? So there's an instinctual ability to discern fear, right? But then some things are not so clear, right? They could seem super great. You could go up to a beautiful unicorn and think you're totally good, and then it'll stab you with its horn, right? Deception. So how are you going to know, right, which unicorn is a bust and which unicorn's cool? Right? You got to figure that out somehow. So we have to learn these things. Deception, if we look at that concept of like fear as a deception, that means lies. Lies are a component of fear, right? So if somebody tells you something, it'll mess up your ability to know stuff, right? That's where the lie fear has power over you, because you're going to be like, well, I don't know, they said, this is the Chicken Little situation, this kind of fear. This is Chicken Little said the sky's falling, so I'm going to react to that and go freak out and tell everybody else that it's true. But then you find out, oh no, the sky isn't falling, they were lying, right? But then you have to have gone through all this kerfuffle, told all these people, and now what? Now you feel like a fool. Because you've been fooled, you've been tricked, you've been duped, right? Maybe they even stole your wallet while they told you the sky was falling, right? That happens a lot in Los Angeles, so it's good to be aware of these things. Danger, you guys know what the word danger means. This is interesting. Danger, if you look up the word, it actually comes from the same root as dominate, or dominion, or lord, or master. What? What does that mean? What do you guys think of danger? Do you guys think of lord and power and domination when you think of danger? That sounds weird. When I think of danger, it's like what? A threat to life, correct? If it's danger, you have to be careful so you don't die, right? That's what I would think of as danger. So why, when you look up the word, does it have all this lord, domination, power talking stuff? What does that mean? Well, danger means a force outside of your control that dominates you and exerts power over you, has the power to take your life. That's dominating, right? You have control over someone's life and death. Now we're in a domination situation, right? So you could see any sort of natural force that would threaten your life, right? That's the danger fear. That's like things like tsunamis, right? Or like earthquakes or situations that are completely out of your control, right? But, now we're in trouble because there's some dangers that you can control, right? You guys, you can't control it if you're in Thailand and the tsunami hits and you're on the beach. I mean, can you? I don't know. I guess some people would argue that, but you can control your fate or whatever. But what if you're looking at the bus example? This is a danger that's controllable, right? We can get out of the way. So we have now, just from talking about those two kinds of danger, somehow it multiplied into 4 kinds of danger, right? So the main situation here is that it's not very cut and dry. It's not like this is safe, this is dangerous. And again, this is what I'm talking about. The unicorn that you trust then ending up being an issue, right? So discernment is very important in all of this, right? Because how are you going to know? It's the issue. So if it's about something taking control of you or taking power over you, how do we talk about this in the occult? Do you guys know? What's that? That's possession, right? If something is something else is driving, if you're not in control of your own actions, now you're like possessed or obsessed by something. You don't know, you can no longer discern for yourself what's real and what's not real. Now you're under the control of something else, right? Like, for example, you guys, we could look at an alcohol possession. For example, you're possessed by alcohol, you're driving, you think you're driving in a straight line. But the alcohol is possessing you and you are not driving in a straight line, right? That is a paradox. You think one thing, but actually reality is another thing, right? But you're just drunk driving is what's happening, right? So you're possessed by this thing and you don't know. And that is the biggest danger of fear that we're going to be talking about today, is when you're not aware that you're even like afraid or there's a problem or that you have a possession, right? But then, again, you guys, so many paradoxes today. Who gets to tell people that they're messed up? Right? Who gets to choose to say, hey, what you're doing there, that's not real, this is real. Now we get into the paradox situation again, right? If you think you're driving totally cool, the cop is going to be the one that comes up and tells you you're not cool, right? I promise. If you're swerving, someone's going to come and correct you, right? They're going to say, hey, you're having a possession. But then what happens? How does the drunk person usually reply? You guys have had this situation, right, at a party. What do they always tell you? I'm fine. You're crazy. Right? It's always the I'm fine, you're crazy response you guys get, right? So how are we supposed to have a consensus of what's dangerous and trustworthy if the people that are possessed have no idea that they're causing a problem? That's an issue, right? They don't even know. And then again, you can add another level to it, to the people that do these types of activities on purpose. Right? Then there's the people that will tell you, I'm fine, you're crazy, when they know full well they're crazy. And that you're fine. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? These are the purposeful, deceptive fears. So sometimes it's innocent, and other times it's created. Either way, you're still going to have an appropriate response, right? And that's the most important thing that's going to be involved in dealing with fears. How are you going to respond when it's stuck in front? When you get the cop that pulls you over and says you're messed up, what is your response going to be? Are you going to be, I'm cool? Are you going to be, I'm so sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Right? Which response are you going to do to the fear or the possession? Right? Are you going to take it or are you going to deny it? Right? Because those are your choices you get when someone points out that you're not cool. You can either believe them or you don't believe them. Right? Some people, as you guys know, you could have 20 or 30 people or even an entire society tell them they're not cool. They still think they're cool. But paradox again. It's going to happen a lot. We're going to just move through so many paradoxes today. It's going to be good. So, what if you're the one that disagrees with everyone and you're actually cool and everyone else isn't cool? This happens a lot. Now we got the flat earth situation. So, again, I'm going to stress this again. There's complexity involved in this fear situation. Right? Because how about we have a whole entire society indicating to you that you're not cool, but you absolutely know at the core of your being that you're totally cool. And they are not cool. Now there's a dilemma. right? Again, power, dominion, who's driving? Who gets to drive these decisions of fear? And what kind of control do we get to have as individuals and then also in society to deal with these fears and conspiracies? You guys, this is exactly the issue that's at the core of all the terrorism stuff that's occurring. It's this right here. And how are we going to decide, right? We can see a perfect example of this, you guys, is the propaganda with the race stuff, okay? So we're trying to fight terrorism. How does that get convoluted by deceivers, right? They say, oh, it's Muslims or Middle Easterners. What? Who started that? But check it out. We got hundreds of thousands of people that believe that that's true. That a terrorist means that you're from the Middle East. That is not a joke. There are people that believe this through and then will attack the Muslim, right, temples or people. And where does that happen? That's fear. That's a fear-based reaction, but they're perceiving a danger because someone lied and told them this is a dangerous situation, right? So you guys see how quickly this can just spin into a great big issue that then can cost people their lives, right? A fabrication of a danger is no less dangerous when people react out of it in fear, right? So this is why it's very important for us to watch our reactions to danger to make sure that the danger is real in the first place, right? Someone tells me a Middle Easterner is dangerous, I would say, what are you talking about? But how many people say, okay, sounds good, that's legit? This is the situation we're being faced with currently. Too many people are checking out and giving a legit consensus to things that are 100% not legit. So then we have to go through our own fear battles and think, is this true? Is it not true? What's happening here? We have to go paradox, right? We're getting forced into paradoxicity from the deceptions that people are just promulgating everywhere. I don't understand how it's getting such epic proportions with this fact-checking, right? It's difficult. So, we get a possession through something having power over us. So, how do occultists deal with this? What's the technique? What are you going to do, right? How do we deal with this situation? Well, traditionally, in occult and esoteric traditions, or even shamanic traditions, there'll usually be two treatments, right? Which are kind of the same, a little bit different. There'll be an exorcism or a soul retrieval. One of the two, right, will occur. That's the prescription for dealing with a fear possession and to teach you how to discern real danger from not real danger. Those two performances, right? Exorcisms, of course, have got quite a reputation. When you guys think of exorcism, what do you guys think of? Yeah, the movie. You guys, Hollywood is so good at deception, it's really got it down to an art form. So we're going to be influenced by the idea of what an exorcism is because there was a movie about it? What? That's so dumb. That's like if someone showed you a cartoon and says, this is the world. That's what's happening, right? Dummies. No, that's not true. Exorcisms have existed since the beginning of humanity. It's a shamanic tradition. It's not even originating in the Catholic Church, right? So if you're going to make it a Jesus demon thing, I mean, this has been going on a long time, right? Shamans have been performing exorcisms since pre-Christ. So it's important to make that distinction first and foremost. This is not a religion thing. This is not about God. An exorcism is not about that. It's about removal of fear, right? Which, of course, religions appropriate and then try to force judgment upon it, right? So, let's try to find out what is an exorcism then, right? That becomes the good quiz. This is what we want to know. There's a prescribed treatment for fear. It's exorcism. What does that mean? What do we do? How do you do an exorcism? How many of you guys have ever done an exorcism? Okay, so there's like one person raising their hand. How many of you guys have had fear? Why don't you guys do exorcism? You guys just hang out with your fear and think it's cool? Does it bug you that you're afraid? You're just cool. You're like, well, I'm afraid. Okay, here we go. It's not necessary, right? If there's an option to fix it, let's see what we can do, right? That's what I say. So, exorcism, when we look up the word, you guys know what exorcism means? Anybody? Bind by oath. To bind something by an oath. But then I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Bind by an oath? That's like a spell, correct? That's like if I say, you're mine, right? Which none of you are mine or belong to anybody. I don't want to make that spell. So it's like if you're stating a truth. An oath is like a swear or a promise. It's a promise is an oath, right? But if we look at that, let's look at this. So oath, what does that mean? That word, exorcism, comes from the Greek. It means bind by oath, but what are they talking about? In the Greek, the oath was actually a god. That word oath means God. It means horkos. I know, not a very sexy name like horkos. Sounds kind of awkward. But oath is horkos, and horkos is to cause, to put a curse inflicted on any person who lies. Horkos put a curse on anyone who tells a lie to remove the lie from the presence. So that means, you guys understand, this is important. That means exorcism means remove lies. Right? What? That is powerful. If you do an exorcism, you remove all lies. That's like a magnetic pulse or something that can just knock down all the bullshit, pardon my French, right? That is a powerful weapon to be able to destroy lies and deception. What? So this horkos situation, okay, I look up horkos and I think of like hoax, right? Like the origin of, it's like a hoax or a trick or a deception. It's also related to hocus pocus, funnily enough. You guys know hocus pocus was the name of a magician who would trick people, deceiver. It's all trickster stuff, right? Lies. This is real. Sure, I just pulled this bird out of my whatever. You believe it, right? Here it is. Here's the bird. That's the proof. I am magical. Well, no, actually you just had it in your pocket, right? Totally full of garbage. So the exorcism is the action of saying liar. The exorcism is quite simply someone slapping your face and saying, quit tripping. So if we think about what is an exorcism, it's when a bunch of people get together and then we can perform the function without power or domination over another person and say, hey man, we just think you're tripping a little bit. It's like an intervention at that point, right? Where enough people come together and they're like, hey, you know, we've been looking at this whole like flat earth thing. And I talked to Bobby Joe, and Bobby Joe talked to Megan, and Megan talked to Sarah, and Sarah talked to Lisa, and we all think it's maybe not true. What do you have to say about that? Right? And then whoever the deceiver is has to account for themselves. They have to take responsibility for the lies that they've propagated. Right? You guys know how this goes in societies, right? We can take this not just on a personal level with, you know, Bobby Joe or Megan or whatever, but we take it up to a societal level where what happens when we find out something everybody accepted is false? Do you guys know? There's kind of a systemic order of revelation of truth in different systems within society. And it kind of follows the 12 steps, interestingly enough. It's really weird. You guys know what happens first? Denial. No, that's not true. The world is totally flat. What are you talking about? Right? So the first thing they'll do is they deny it. And then they get sad. Then you get grief. Right? Because the grief happens when you're like, what if I'm not true? What if this isn't true? But the grief only comes because people attach it to some personal ego thing of their own, usually, right? Like, why would a scientist deny general relativity is totally the answer, it's totally true? You guys, this happens. They get upset. Einstein spent his life trying to debunk the debunkers of his theory. There'll be a reaction. If you question an accepted paradigm of reality, the denial is real. Right? GMOs are safe. Right? What? That's the accepted paradigmatic truth. Right? Don't you guys know this? This is what they're what are you going to do about this issue, right? What happens when everyone says the world is flat and you absolutely 100% know that it's not true? So, when we do an exorcism in order to try to hold people accountable, it's really important to take into account the reaction of someone in the fear place to what is happening. Because, right, we talked about fear is a reaction to danger. So what happens if they find out they're getting tricked? How do you guys think they're going to respond if they find out, like, this thing they thought was true is not true? Well, they've got a mess now, right? They're going to be pissed. They're going to have a reaction. Everyone's going to demand justice. There's going to be an issue. Who told us this thing that's not true? All right, and then everybody gets all like Frankenstein monster mob style on the person that they'll pick to be the thing that is expressing the untruth. But the fact of the matter is, everybody was falling for it. Everybody agreed upon this lie, right? So here's where we get into a problem. If you're part of a mass deception and you discover it, how on earth are you going to be pissed at the people that are still in the middle of it? Really? What were you just doing like 5 minutes ago? Right? So then we get into the problem of how are we going to deal with revealing fears and truths and lies, right? How are we going to deal with people's very, very predictable reactions? You guys, like I said, you can write a book by how someone's going to react when they're told something's not true. They're probably going to not take it too well. Now, this is not everybody. Okay, people that practice techniques, like we're going to talk about today, don't get so upset when you find out something's true. Right? Because they've kind of questioned it and they kind of know that everything is sort of a gray area and that there isn't really like a thing that's like 100% going to be right on, right? So you're going to go into it thinking, okay, well, this could probably be wrong and it's not a big deal because you do not attach to it, right? What do you think happens when you confront, let's take an example of a political situation, okay? What do you think is going to happen if you try to confront someone who's pro-life who just murdered a doctor? Okay, so you're going to try. This is a situation that is a true, real-life situation of danger and lies and deception that we have to account for, right? So this pro-life person just murdered a doctor. How are you going to present to them the information that they, in fact, are doing what the thing that they don't want to be done, right? They're possessed by a fear that something is not true, and then they go ahead and perform the deception that they're afraid of themselves. But this person just killed someone, so how are you going to address them? How are you going to approach them? What do? Right?
Asking questions.
You know, there has to be some kind of way that you can have it happen. First of all, you have to remove the danger, right? Don't try to approach someone who's in a fear-danger spot. What happens when you, like, go up to an animal that's in that situation? Now you're in danger. You can be as true as you want to be, but that is not going to remove the deception of danger because they're already in it, right? This is a problem. You would hope, like, if you just remain calm and cool and try to talk to the person, but here's, like, now you're negotiating with a terrorist. You see what I'm talking about? This is why it's very difficult to negotiate with terrorists. Because until the danger is removed, how on earth are you going to have any kind of negotiation at all without placing either yourself in danger or the people that are around the terrorist in danger? Right? Now you got to start to be a little more gray yourself. You can't just be like, oh, we'll just go in there and shoot them. They're putting people in danger, let's just kill them. Well, how do you know they're putting people in danger, right? What are they reacting to? You don't know. What if there's a monster in there, right? Who knows? So you got to take time. You got to figure stuff out. You got to discern. Is this person crazy or is everyone around them crazy? Which one? Who's the crazy one? Putting the danger situation on, right? So it's not just enough to recognize how are we going to communicate and go through the 12 steps to order to get past the fear place. And again, you guys can all do this on an individual level, but the fact of the matter remains, if we have an entire country that's geared towards fighting terrorism with weapons, I don't know that that's going to go. We're creating another dangerous situation to deal with the dangerous deception that arose. Is that a solution? I don't think so. Right? How is that eradicating terrorism? It's making more terrorism to combat the terrorism. What you're left with is still terrorism. And now we get to paranoia and conspiracy theories, okay? Here's how this happens. This is directly how it occurs. I'm telling you right now, right? You're going to get paranoid because you're going to see, oh my God, someone just bombed all those people. And then you're going to see, oh my God, the people who just got bombed then just bombed a bunch of people which may or may not have been related in the original bombing. Right? Here's how it goes. Now the wheel starts to spin. Right? So then people who are thinking and watching, they'll be like, well, how is this happening? So you start to question. You question. And this is where we have the option of getting obsessed and possessed with the question and finding out the truth, right? Or we can try and stay in the middle and be a little discerning, okay? It's good to question things you guys have to question, but where does that line run between questing and seeking for truth and then falling into fear-obsessed paranoia, right? So let's say you're gonna do your quest on the internet. You're gonna say, hey, what did happen with that terrorist bombing situation? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, right? How many of you guys have done this? Hopefully, right? You guys all do this, right? Something happens on the news and you gotta go check it out, right? I hope so, right? That's where again the consensus. Hey, are we crazy or did that really happen, right? So. You go on, you check it out, you go try to get the consensus. Well, what did happen in Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or, take your pick. Which place, man? It's happening everywhere. Ukraine. What's happening? What went down? Right? So some people will get a little information and it'll look sketchy. The source of the information looks, that's sketchy. That can't be true. Right? So then they'll try and find out deeper and they'll maybe find a bunch of other people that thought that article was sketchy, but then they invented a bunch of stories to explain it. Okay? Well, that news story was made up by the Illuminati agenda. Right? It's propaganda from the Illuminati. That explains it. Can't you guys see? This is mind control. Right? They'll say, yeah, sure. I questioned this, and I've arrived at the question that this is it's not true. Okay, but who's saying that? Are they in the place, or are they like at home on their computer? Have they ever been to Syria? Are they there right now? I don't know. Why can't we get sources of information when they've got Twitter and everything? Like, I don't understand why this is occurring. Why are we paying attention to these people at home on their computers having an opinion about what's happening in Syria? That's not cool. I want to know from someone in Syria that was a martyr, that bore witness, or at least participated. I don't know. What about you guys? Why can't we have that information? That's the only information that I feel like could be pertinent to the situation. But instead, what information are we getting? So you guys see, they'll question, they'll be like, I don't know, that sounds weird, and then they start spiraling out. So now we get to the paradox, paranoia. You guys know, like, paranoia, paradox, it's because you're going back and forth, okay? So how do you know anything? You're going to say, is this true? Who am I? Well, I am this, I'm not that. I'm this, I'm not that. I do that, sort of. Sometimes I do this. Well, maybe I'm a little bit of that too, and sometimes I'm a jerk, sometimes I'm cool. And then you kind of like arrive at that center point, right? Usually, for most stuff, right? You guys can usually kind of whittle most stuff down to kind of a point where you mostly know what's going on, right? Think about people in this manner, okay? Let's say you have a best friend that you've had since 2 years old. You've experienced a lot of experiences with this friend. You guys have been through a lot of stuff. You can depend on them. You can trust them. And then one day, sadly, maybe they'll tell you a little fib on the phone or something. So then, how are you going to react to that? Are you going to go, this is terrible. I can't trust this person anymore. This person is a liar. Right? I'm not going to pay any attention to this person anymore. Well, is it true? Are they a liar? Were they just telling a fib out of fear? I don't know. And then you have to see how many things are they lying about and how many things are they not lying about. So you got to get to the center place to find the real person. Right? This is how we operate with everything. You guys, hopefully you guys do this with yourself too. Because this is the important thing. If you guys are met with a situation, you react in a manner you don't like, what do you guys do? Hopefully, self-reflect, right? Or you feel bad. Or you have remorse. If you do something inappropriate, or someone lets you know, hey, liar. What are you going to do? Are you going to say, am I lying? I don't know, right? Help me out. Or are you going to be like, I'm not a liar, you're a liar. And then you get a big fight, right? Now fear and danger takes over, right? Or things fall down. So it's like the reaction again, right? What's going to make more danger in a fear situation? The reaction. Why do you guys think it's against the law to yell fire in a crowded theater? Why? Specifically because of the fear reaction that people invariably have, right? Clearly not everyone, right? You would hope that you're going to be the dude or the chick in the theater that while everyone freaks out, you're going to go, where's the fire extinguisher? Are you going to be that person? Or are you going to be the person that goes, oh my God, fire! That's your choice. That's the choice that you get to meet with in dangerous situations. Are you going to allow fear to possess your decision of the choice that you're making, or are you actually going to make the decision based on discernment, gathering information, and perception? You guys see the difference, right? It's the difference between handling the problem and going, oh my God, and absolutely not handling the problem. Possibly contributing to making the problem worse, right? So this is the thing with the fear situation that it comes down to, no matter what the source, no matter what the truth of it, no matter if it's a deceit or a real danger, the main issue that's going to decompress the damage that occurs is going to be the reaction, right? How are you going to react to this fear situation? If a lion walks in, again, are you going to be the person that goes, oh my God, lion? And then invariably the lion's going to come right to you, right? Just like a little, right? How many of you guys have been, okay, this is a good example of what I'm talking about. It's the surrender aspect, essentially, right? How many of you guys have ever done a sport, or like skateboarding or snowboarding, where you're doing it, you're going, like you're fast, you're flowing, you're in the thing, right? You're in the zone. And then you get a doubt. It goes, I'm going to eat it, and then invariably you eat it. But what was happening before then? You were going, you were flowing, you were cool. But then, I'm not going to make the corner. Gesundheit. And then you don't make the corner, right? That's fear affecting your ability to respond to the situation. You guys see how debilitating fear can be? It actually makes you less effective. And this is the problem with questioning everything, is how are you going to trust that you're going to make that turn, right? To a certain extent, at one point, you got to just shove it off and go for it, right? Or you're never going to make the turn. You're going to be like, oh God, I missed that turn once. I'm going to miss it every time. Now the fear extends into your future based on an incident that you experienced, because you cannot release that fear of danger. So now it affects you. You guys, this affects people's life. This is why people become addicts. This is why people cannot talk to other people. This is why people get paranoid and degenerate into the downward spiral. This is why goth music exists. Right? Because of these situations. Because of this. Right? So, you have to think, how far am I going to question something, and how much am I going to accept and trust the answer? And then we get into the whole, like, kind of uncertainty issue and the trust issue, right? So, you guys know about the whole Heisenberg uncertainty principle, right? This is a good thing. Everyone should read about this. This is quantum physics, and it's kind of making a comeback right now. Uncertainty kind of went down. You guys know why? Because like I said, Albert Einstein was working very hard to shut everybody up about it, so that he wouldn't have to face the fear of his theory being incorrect. He wouldn't have to face his own deception. That's why he got all pissed, right? So, but the Heisenberg uncertainty situation says, at all times, we're in this flux of fear and danger. That exists. There's potentialities for everything. There's the potential for the disaster to occur. There's the potential for the salvation to occur. And then all kinds of stuff in the middle, right? We got apocalypse now. We got salvation. And then we got just hanging out watching TV. At all moments, at all times. Right? Someone reading the Bible is having apocalypse now. Well, someone watching, whatever, Family Guy on TV is maybe not in the same situation as the apocalypse now person. Right? Consensus. And then the other person reading the Bible might be like, why is that person watching Family Guy not agreeing with what I'm saying about the apocalypse? Now, they're a deceiver, liar, I can't trust them. They don't agree that the world is flat or whatever situation that they're involved in. All right? So again, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna react? Well, so the first thing that we gotta do, you have to confront the fear, man. You gotta look at it right in its sneaky little eye, right? Confront it. What does Yoda do to Luke Skywalker? He sticks him in that tree to look at the head of Darth Vader. This is good because it's true. Okay, you gotta look at your Darth Vader head in your tree trunk. That has to happen. Why do you have to look at your Darth Vader head in your tree trunk? You guys know? What happens to Luke Skywalker when he sees the Darth Vader situation and comes into confrontation with it? You're my father. Realization, truth. What emerges when he confronts that fear? He arrives at the truth. Now the deceit is done, the danger is done, and he figures out, oh, it's me. My fear was just me. It's my dad, right? It's myself. It's my dark side. It's my shadow. So if you don't confront the fear, you'll never get to that point, right? You'll never get to that realization of truth. So the confrontation has to occur. We gotta slap each other. We must exercise when we call bees to say, hey, is that cool? I don't know. But we can't be judgmental. We can't be domineering. When you guys exercise people, you can't go around thinking, I'm the exorcist. I'm all good and cool. Because then someone's going to correct you. Hey, you're not so cool. Now you got to think. There's a little thing on your face here. It looks like fear. Right? So we just have to let people know we got fear stuck in our teeth. Help each other out a little bit, right? But nicely, right? Appropriately. Helpfully. truthfully. You would hope someone does the same for you, right? If I'm messed up, you let me know. I can confront it. People that have difficulty confronting their fears, not unusually, are usually full of fear. If I don't care, right? If you're going to tell me the world is flat, and I'm like, okay, so maybe, I don't know, let's find out. I'm not going to be attached to it emotionally, discovering that the world isn't flat, right? Who does that? Who does that? Why would you be super attached to a truth that you perceive? Unless you're afraid someone's going to prove you wrong. Now it becomes so important to tote this truth, because what if it's not true? Uh-oh. Paradox, right? You guys, we work so hard to keep ourselves out of paradoxes. It wastes a lot of time, really. So now, we have to figure out, what does the truth mean? Uh-oh. Again, paradoxes. What's true for you could not be true for me. Now we get back to the Heisenberg uncertainty thing, right? It's going to be perception. That's relativity. Who says it's true? What are you looking at compared to what I'm looking at? Is there stuff that's true for everybody? You guys know anything that's true for everybody all of the time? Is there that thing? Help me out if I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, there is. Right? But none of you guys, you got to bake your noodle there for a minute, huh? But then you get into certainty. If there is something that's true for everybody all of the time, that's certainty. You know that it's true. Well, what does true even mean? You guys, if you look up the word truth, it's faithful, trust, and then you guys know the other word that it comes from? This is my favorite word that true is from. True is from drew, or tree, like a druid. The word true means tree, because the Druids would say, the way that you know something, they said it's certain as an oak. Right? So there are some things that we can do to discern, is this true or not true? Is this tree or not tree? To tree or not to tree, right? Actually, you guys, the funny thing that is true is that everything is trees. You guys know that, right? It's all fractals, right? Everything acts in a tree manner because it goes into fractals. That is the truth. It's funny. So, true, we should be able to see, like, well, is there a tree there or is there no tree there? This is an example. This is very simple, usually. Like I said, it gets into complexity, right? Because you can say truth is simple as a flower, but then as the song goes, flower is a complicated thing. So, how are you going to, right, figure that out? If it's true and everyone can see it and agree on it, again, that's a consensus. That's a trust. Now we have to trust that it's true. We can't just go on questioning things forever. We must have some things be certain. There are unquestionable truths. You'll get to a point of going, yes, no, maybe so, I don't know, maybe that one time, maybe never again. Oh, but it happened again. Uh-oh, now that's not, and then you'll finally go, oh, there's that place. You'll arrive at the pinnacle where you can no longer ask another question. Where it becomes impossible to ask another question because you've already asked every single question that you can probably come up with, right? So that's where you get to the certainties. And you guys, people have been doing these questions for a long, long time. We're not the only ones that just woke up and are like questioning stuff. That's how we've arrived at the amount of knowledge that we've gotten so far. Is by people going, oh, if I poke this, does it move or not move? Well, it looks like it doesn't move. Yeah, I got that too. It doesn't move. Yeah, okay, no movement. Okay. What about this? If we poke this, does this move? Okay, that totally moved. Okay, so this is how we figure stuff out. You got to question. You got to probe. But listen, it's so interesting because I had, how many of you guys have dealt with people like in the Skeptic Society? So some people get angry if you ask questions. This is their response. Their response to you questioning, they say, how can you question science? That's what they say. Can you guys imagine? How can you question science? This is their response. What do you mean, science is questioning? Why can't we question the questioners? And then here we get, you guys see how this goes up to levels? You can't just get mad at the conspiracy theorists that question the government. You must be allowed to ask questions. You must. However, you cannot go conspiracy theory and just make up stories. You got to corroborate, right? We got to have consensus. We got to have evidence. Okay, maybe you were the only one that saw something, and now we see this situation all over the place. You guys know what that situation is? Whistleblower. That's the whistleblower situation in karma and martyrdom, right? What occurs when you see that everything is not cool, and then you mention that it's not cool, and then everyone gets upset, and then you're in the whistleblower situation, and you have to remove yourself from the danger and the fear. Or else, now we got the Frankenstein angry mob. Right? So it's dangerous, too, to not allow people to ask questions and just call everyone paranoid, because it's dangerous, because then you're eliminating an avenue to truth. Right? Maybe that person is correct. You better find out. Right? You better find out first. Before you call them a liar, find out. If you heard some gossip, what are you going to do? Is Julie said you suck. Are you going to go, I hate Julie now, I'm going to go key her car? Or are you going to call Julie on the phone and you're going to say, Julie, did you say I suck? And now we're in the trust situation, where now you got to trust what Julie says. Or you trust your friend. Which source of information are we going to trust here, right? And how many people are involved? So you just got to check it out, you know? I really want to stress that just questioning things does not equal paranoia. Simply asking questions must be allowed, because it's how we're going to have evolution occur. Imagine if we had a scientific paradigm where everything was accepted as absolutely true. We would never move. If we accept absolute truth as it stands now, as we exist, with everything that's happening as totally true and acceptable and cool, that means we will never move from this place that we are, right? You guys see how dangerous that is, to not allow a little paranoia, a little paradox? Because if you don't, everything's black or white. Middle Easterns are terrorists, white people are cool. And this is how we get into those terrible places. Because someone in a position of power or domination says this is the truth, nobody questions it, and now all the Jews are burned. Right? This is the way that it goes. This is the mechanism for action of atrocity, you guys. So we have to be smart about how we question, or they'll dismiss us as crazy and paranoid and unhelpful and unuseful. So there's rules, is what I'm saying, you guys. We can't just be like, you guys are lying, and have a fear reaction to somebody lying, right? Because now we're just as bad as the person in the movie theater with the fire, and how helpful or useful is that going to be to discerning the fear? Not very useful. You guys know how many people are dismissed as crazy for even suggesting a conspiracy theory? As soon as you get labeled a conspiracy theorist, you're absolutely dismissed as insane. Right? Absolutely. And then that goes on to another dismissal of the whole insanity thing anyway, right? Again, that's a consensus agreement. And if you guys look at mental illness, you guys, what happens with the majority of people that are mentally ill? What does that mean, mentally ill? What happens? They are maybe not agreeing with the consensus of reality. The reality they're experiencing is not the same as the reality that you're experiencing, right? So then we discern, oh, you're mentally ill. I mean, right? It's a different experience of what is happening. And there could be a perceived danger in the case of the mentally ill person, right? They could see danger places, but then they don't know how to discern that from maybe a not so dangerous spot, right? So you guys see why it's a problem, right? And you guys know what's the cure for mental illness?
Electroshock therapy?
Does that cure mental illness? If you shock someone with electricity, are they good? Are they cool?
They calm down.
Right? Does it come back? Are they just good? You just shock them and then they're cool, right? If that was true, we could just hold cattle prods and just zap everybody that acts inappropriately,
Is that what the police are doing?
right? And now the situation is solved. It's a lie that electroshock therapy is helpful because it's not curing the disease. It's helpful in the fact that the person is incapacitated, but is that solving or dealing with the issue? You guys know what the big running theme is for people who have mental illness diagnosed? Fear. Mostly. Right? It's a paranoia or a fear. Do you guys know one of the techniques that they're using to deal with this now, that they're researching finally? You guys know? Psychedelic drugs. What? Why is this a surprise when that's what they were doing with LSD in the 50s and the 60s? You guys already know this already happened. But then why is there still veterans freaking out about paranoia everywhere on the streets? Because they can't manage to function and get out of fear. What is taking so long? You guys found out about the Johns Hopkins research on psilocybin, right? That it treats trauma and fear and terror and horror. That this chemical has an effect of removing the sense of danger. Right? Now, wait a minute, you guys might say, right? Hang on. I know someone that took psychedelics and then they got afraid. So how is it that this fear-inducing chemical can heal fear? Well, how does any drug heal anything? It has an attraction or an affinity for the thing that it's doing, right? It's the whole vaccination idea. How is that? Why would it be any different than a vaccination if you induce a fear-inducing plant into someone with fear? I don't know what's going to happen. But it's certainly not cut and dry. Again, we got black and white, and then there's gray area. It doesn't work for everybody. Again, nothing is dependable. Dang it. There's always the exception. Because statistics aren't true, right? So there's always going to be someone who's a little weird, right? So you can't only depend on that either and think if you just take all these plants now you're cool, because that's not the thing either. What is it that the plant is doing that's curing the thing? That's important. You can't just say, oh, this plant cures fear. Well, how does that happen? Now we get into the soul retrieval situation, right? For those of you guys that were at my mind control with the brainwashing, the soul retrieval heals trauma because it reassembles you, right? People get afraid when they get scattered or disassembled. Things are not incongruence, right? It's confusing. There's too much stuff everywhere. So how are you going to know what's going on versus all the confusion? Well, these psychoactive chemicals have the effect of forcing you to confront the fear, right? Which was the first thing that we said. They put you in your little tree. These plants will stick you in your Luke Skywalker tree to look at your Darth Vader face. Right? That's what they do. Is that going to work or is it not going to work? Well, do you guys see how that's a conscious choice that's up to you guys? That's not the plant's job. The plant cannot fix that for you. All it can do is remove your stupid goggles